What if history bent? What if two empires, separated by 1,000 years, rose at the same time? From the east came Genghis Khan, leading 80,000 riders, a storm of hooves and arrows, fast, fearless, unstoppable. From the west came Alexander the Great, commanding 120,000 men, walls of bronze and iron, disciplined, unbreakable, divine. One ruled through speed and deception, the other through order and precision. One was the storm, the other, the thunder. But what would happen if the storm met the thunder? If the greatest cavalry the world had ever seen charged headlong into the strongest phalanx ever forged, the ground would shake, the sky would darken, and the earth itself would decide who truly deserves to be called the conqueror of the world. The world had never seen men like these. Two conquerors, born in different centuries, yet driven by the same fire. One rose from the endless grasslands of Asia, his horsemen swift as the wind, his banners black against the rising sun. The other marched from the marble cities of the West, his legions shining beneath the Mediterranean light. Genghis Khan, the storm from the east. Alexander the Great, the thunder of the West. Separated by time, united by destiny. Each believed the world was too small for two masters. But fate, ever cruel and curious, bent the river of time. In this imagined world, their empires rose together. Their borders met in the heart of Central Asia, where the snow of the Tian Shan Mountains melted into the valley of the Sir Daria River. For Genghis Khan, conquest was not desire. It was instinct. He sought to test his riders against the strongest armies the West could muster to prove that speed and fear could break even the proudest walls. For Alexander the Great, conquest was not glory. It was breath itself. From Macedon to Persia, from Egypt to India, he had crossed deserts, rivers, and mountains, but his hunger only grew. Now, both men looked toward the same horizon, and in that thin line between dust and sky, each saw the other, a mirror, a rival, a reflection of the same unrelenting will. Alexander's army numbered 120,000, disciplined phalanxes, walls of bronze and iron, backed by the elite companion cavalry, loyal only to their king. Genghis Khan commanded 80,000 riders, each a warrior, a hunter, and a storm unto himself. They moved like smoke, struck like lightning, and vanished before the echo of their own charge. As the snows melted from the Tian Shan peaks, both armies began their march toward the same river. Scouts from either side returned with the same warning. Another great host moves beyond the horizon. And so, the world held its breath. For the first time in all of history, the conqueror of the East and the conqueror of the West would meet, not in legend, but in battle. The steppes stretched endlessly beneath a silver sky. Cold winds whispered through the grass, carrying the scent of dust, iron, and destiny. Two empires moved toward each other, their banners unseen, their hearts set on conquest. Each believed the other was still far away. They were wrong. To the west, the army of Alexander the Great advanced in perfect rhythm. Bronze shields flashed beneath the sun. The earth trembled beneath thousands of disciplined feet. The Macedonian phalanx, a living wall of spears and steel, marched forward like a single heartbeat. Alexander rode ahead, his eyes fixed on the horizon. He had crossed the Hindu Kush, crushed the Persian kings, and now sought the edge of the world itself. But this time, his enemy was unlike any before. A ghost, a storm, a shadow on the wind. To the east, the riders of Genghis Khan swept across the plains, silent, tireless, unstoppable. No drums, no horns, only the whisper of hooves and the hiss of the wind. Every warrior knew his place, his bow, his horse. They moved like water, changing shape with every gust of wind. From a rocky ridge, Genghis Khan watched the horizon. His cloak whipped in the cold wind as he spoke to his generals. "They march in straight lines," he said. "Let them." The arrow fears no wall. Beside him, Subutai, his greatest strategist, drew lines in the dust with the tip of his dagger. "They will come fast," he murmured. "Then we make them run faster." They were not preparing for a battle. They were preparing for a hunt. In Alexander's camp that same night, torches burned bright against the darkness. Engineers sketched plans on parchment. Generals argued over maps and distances. Alexander stood above them, tracing the river's curve with his finger. "If he crosses first, we strike at dawn. If we cross first, the plains become our fortress." Outside, the soldiers slept beneath the stars, their armor stacked beside them, their spears glinting in the firelight. The air was still. The steppe itself seemed to wait. Between two oceans of men, the Sirdaria River lay silent. A silver line between history and legend. The scouts would return before sunrise, and when they did, the fate of two worlds would be decided. Dawn broke over the Central Asian plains, a red light spilling across the steppe, painting the Sirdaria River like a blade of fire. On both banks, two armies faced one another, each born from opposite ends of the world, each believing they were chosen by destiny itself. The ground trembled beneath the weight of men and horses. Armor creaked, banners whispered, and for one long moment, the earth seemed to hold its breath. Then, a single horn shattered the silence. The Mongols moved first. From beyond the haze, they came, tens of thousands of riders sweeping forward in perfect rhythm. Their hooves drummed against the soil like thunder. Bows lifted, strings sang, and the sky darkened beneath a storm of arrows. The first volley fell upon the Macedonian front. Bronze shields locked. The phalanx braced, shafts shattered, sparks flashed, and still the rain of arrows did not cease. Alexander rode to the front line, his armor glinting with sunlight and dust. "Forward!" he shouted. "We are the wall! We are the storm!" The phalanx advanced, slow, relentless, a wall of spears and iron pressing into the oncoming tide. Behind them, the companion cavalry formed a shining wedge, their horses snorting steam, ready to strike. High above, on a ridge overlooking the valley, Genghis Khan watched the chaos unfold. His eyes were cold, his voice calm. "Good," he murmured. "Let them come closer." At his signal, the Mongol center began to fall back, a feigned retreat, perfected through generations of war. Alexander saw the enemy withdraw and believed victory was near. He ordered the charge. Dust erupted like smoke. The ground shook with the thunder of hooves. The Macedonians pressed forward, straight into the trap. From both flanks, the Mongol wings swung inward like iron gates. Tens of thousands of riders closed around them, loosing arrow after arrow until the air itself seemed to scream. Alexander wheeled his horse, realizing too late what had happened. The enemy had not broken. They had lured him in. "Form the circle," he roared. "Shields up! Hold your ground!" The Macedonians locked their formation, spears bristling in every direction. The steppe roared with fury. Horses crashed, men shouted, and the dust rose high enough to blot out the sun. The battle had become a storm of its own. Steel against speed, order against chaos, west against east. And across that maelstrom of blood and fire, two figures stood watching each other. Genghis Khan, the storm from the east, and Alexander the Great, the thunder of the west, each waiting to see whose will would break first. The steppe was now a storm. Dust and smoke swallowed the sky. Men no longer saw armies, only chaos, flashes of steel, and the echo of death. The Macedonian circle held, a fortress of bronze amid the hurricane. Arrows hammered their shields like rain on stone. Every breath burned with smoke and blood. Still, Alexander the Great refused to retreat. He rode through the line, sword raised high, his voice cutting through the thunder. "Hold the line! We are the wall! We are the storm!" The companion cavalry answered with a roar. They charged, a silver wedge slicing into the Mongol ranks. For every rider that fell, 2 more took his place. The battlefield churned like a living sea. From a ridge above the carnage, Genghis Khan watched. His gaze was calm, almost cold. Beside him, Subutai studied the dust with silent precision. "They fight like lions, my Khan," Subutai said. "Their line will not break easily." Genghis nodded once. "Then we let them think they are winning." He spurred his horse forward, the Khan himself entering the storm. The sight of him ignited his warriors. They shouted his name into the wind. "Temujin! Temujin!" Arrows flew from his bow like lightning from the heavens. The Mongol center surged again, crashing into the Macedonian ring with terrifying force. Alexander saw the man who commanded the storm. For the first time, he felt not fear, but recognition. He turned his horse and charged. 2 destinies raced toward each other across a field of fire. They met at the edge of the circle. Swords clashed once, twice again, steel singing against steel. The world seemed to stop. East and west. 2 empires, 2 wills, 1 heartbeat. Around them, chaos roared. A Mongol rider lunged from the flank. Alexander's horse reared. He struck the man down, but the moment was lost. Subutai's flanking troops swept in like a tide, crashing into the rear of the Macedonian line. The perfect circle cracked. Gaps opened. The Mongols poured through. Alexander shouted for order, but his voice was drowned by the thunder of hooves. The steppe became a furnace of dust, fire, and screams. The sun sank into the haze, red, merciless, ancient. No one could tell who held the advantage now, but both commanders knew. This battle was no longer about land or conquest. It was about endurance, the will to stand when everything else falls. And as the last light faded, the steppe whispered one truth. Neither God nor empire could escape the storm they had unleashed. Night fell over the steppe like a shroud. The fires of battle burned in the distance, flickering across a land soaked in blood. The Sir Daria River ran red. The cries of the wounded faded into silence, and only the wind remained, carrying the scent of smoke, sweat, and the memory of greatness. Neither side had won. Both armies lay broken, their strength spent, their kings scarred. Alexander the Great stood among the fallen, his bronze armor dark with ash. Around him, the phalanx, what was left of it, watched the horizon in stunned silence. He had faced countless kings before, but never one who fought with such precision, such will. "He fights as I would have fought," he whispered, his voice hoarse, lost in the wind. Across the plain, beneath the pale moon, Genghis Khan walked among his own dead. The steppe was silent now. His warriors bowed their heads as he passed. Even in victory, there was no triumph, only weight. Subutai approached, kneeling beside him. "The enemy has fallen back, my Khan." "The day is ours," Genghis shook his head. "No, the world cannot be conquered, only endured." He looked to the western sky where the stars shimmered above the dying fires. "He will live. Let him live. The world needs men like him, to remind it that glory always demands blood." At dawn, smoke curled over the valley. The survivors of both armies began their slow withdrawal. Two empires turned away, neither defeated, neither whole. But in the dust and ruin, a legend was born, a story whispered by generations, of the day when the thunder of the West met the storm of the East, and the earth itself trembled between them. The steppe sleeps once more. The wind drifts over the plains, whispering through the bones of 1,000 fallen dreams. Time has buried their empires, yet their names still echo across the centuries. Alexander the Great, Genghis Khan, two men divided by 1,000 years, united by a single truth. That destiny belongs only to those who dare to reach beyond it. History remembers them not for the lands they conquered, but for the fire they carried, a flame that still burns in every heart that seeks greatness. Alexander died young, his empire splintered beneath the weight of his ambition. But his dream, to unite the world under one vision, became the foundation of nations yet unborn. Genghis Khan lived longer, his empire stretching farther than any before him. But he too learned the cost of conquest, that to rule the world is to fight the endless war within oneself. Their meeting, imagined or real, reminds us that power is fleeting but legacy endures. Steel rusts, empires fall, but the echo of will, that never dies. Beneath the endless sky of Central Asia, where the Sirdaria still winds through the dust, the ghosts of two conquerors ride on the wind, one from the west, one from the east, forever chasing the horizon that neither could claim. For in the end, it was not the earth they conquered, but eternity itself.